Hey, welcome to Spiritside Chats, where everything's made up and the points don't matter. No, I'm sorry. I just really wanted to say that. I need a live studio audience for that one, though. But no, really, hey, welcome back. It's been like a month since we did a Spiritside Chat. Last month, halfway through the month, Aaron, Alexandria, and I were on a trip actually into Costa Rica, and so we just said prayers and love during that new moon, and then yeah, didn't happen. But here we are, and there's lots to talk about. It's really exciting. Welcome David, who just logged in, and welcome everybody. Also welcome Priscilla, who's brand new to the chat. It's great to have you here.
Thank you.
So as we normally begin these calls, we usually start with meditation. And I'd love to open it up for anybody who has any meditations that they'd like to share with us today.
You're my favorite, Jordan.
Like, I think it's been a while since I've guided one. I'd be happy to take it for at least the intro meditation.
All right. Because I really like Aaron's, that's true, you know, like, but I don't want to always be pushing it off. But Aaron, if you want to take it, that would be wonderful.
Sure, thank you.
Cool.
Great. Well, again, just start with a wave of gratitude here for taking the time out of your day and into this moment to really be present and come together as a community. So as we inhale deeply, just filling our lungs and our life with gratitude, and exhaling as we send that back in thanks and appreciation to the world around us. Just closing our eyes and feeling within ourselves the gratitude for this moment, for this creation. To take time on a regular basis to show our appreciation and our thanks to the Creator for all of our experiences, for all of our growth. As we reflect upon that which we are thankful for, and bring our awareness to the channel of communication between our souls and the divine. We are in constant communication with one another. To be able to, in this moment, direct and steer those attentions, those intentions, towards gratitude, love, and appreciation. Feeling in this moment that we can let go of all other thoughts, everything else that we need to do to be present in this one moment. As we focus on our gratitude and our connection with the divine, our own spirit rises to meet it. We gain clarity, insight, and hope that we are on the right path, that the future is bright. And that in this moment, we give thanks. can now return with eyes open to the present moment. Still being grateful and appreciative for all of our experience, and allowing that intention to carry through us as we go about all future moments from the perspective of being in this one moment. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Cool. Wow. Very good to bring focus to the excitement and the enthusiasm. In truth, I'm so happy to see everybody again. Just be all like open up these reconnections. So thank you very much. That was beautiful.
I'm grateful for you all for being here too.
So the topic for today that we set out is natural healing. And this morning, Aaron and I had a brief conversation about it because the only thought that came to me was the revelation of plant medicine. But we thought we would refine that a little bit and open it up a little bit and go with natural healing, because there are so many. I mean, nature is just so like, the only reason that we need healing is because we're so disconnected from nature. So like getting back into nature in all the ways that we can do. Nature provides so many different medicines and remedies, and just nature itself, being in nature, being a part of it, is like reconnects you with your soul and who you are. And like for anybody who spends most of their time on a computer or with a phone, always, like go out and camp with no technology for a weekend, even a weekend alone, let alone like a week or longer, you instantly feel the effects, like just your whole, everything calms down, you get relaxed, you get centered, you reconnect with what's really important to you. But this past month, Aaron and Alexandria and I, we went to Costa Rica, where we were invited to Rythmia, which is the first ever medically licensed plant medicine healing center, essentially. And the revelations and the experiences that we had there were absolutely profound and transformative. And so, Joshua was saying he's trying to get a call. Sorry, I have my notifications happening, right? And so, yeah, it was amazing. And so I kind of want to open up the space. To really talk about natural healing in all of the ways, but in all the ways that happens, and really like, I don't even know where to begin, honestly. But maybe I can start with a question to the group: is who here first? Who here has experienced any form of plant medicine before? Also, feel free to unmute yourselves. I noticed everybody's. If you have anything to add vocally.
All of us.
I find it interesting that the trajectory of the call today is going to be on natural healing and natural medicine, for that matter. I like that it's broader as just simply natural living. Natural living automates natural healing, automates natural health, as you've alluded to here, Jordan. And actually, Aaron, to sort of create a baseline, what you just did, and I should have said I love both Aaron's and Jordan's meditations, because they are both always profound and always create such a context for the resonance. But that's the baseline. One of the things that we, as you've already sort of mentioned, Jordan, is that we're disconnected from nature. We live lives that are very often disconnected from there, and we don't really get an opportunity to place ourselves within a larger or broader context that gives us the diversity of information that our bodies require on every level, from spirit all the way through to this very dense physical experience. So when it comes to being able to address natural living, I use a term, and it's not a term that, like, I'm recycling a term that's relatively new, but that really helps to frame the context of what natural living is. And it's a term that I use. It's called polycultural living, and it's in reference often to permaculture, but it's so much more diverse than that, because it brings what I call an intimate relationship with creation into the foundation of what we're doing every day. And what you framed earlier, Aaron, is basically that the first step from the inner side, from spirit, and that is that gratitude. It's being able to stay there. In fact, I've got the love of my life with me here right now, and she's continually reminding me through a tough time that I'm currently experiencing, insofar as, say, like some of the business side of life and things like that, where it's like you can have all the spirit you want, but then suddenly spirit decides to shift you into a place that's more in alignment with your purpose, with things like that. But often it's just like, oh my gosh, what's happening? So being able to be in that space of gratitude and being reminded of that every day is step one, especially when we stand outside of the natural world for so much of our day. Oftentimes, Jordan, your backdrop right there is indication that we can use the time away from nature very, very productively to help to amplify our world. But we have to remember to reconnect. And, every morning, or at least throughout the day, I make a point of going outside into my backyard and connect to nature. In fact, it's been warm enough here where I am that I can now go out with bare feet and ground again and actually do breath work and do some fire breathing and really get that channel going and flowing better. So that's the basis, the foundation of natural living, because natural healing and natural medicine and natural plant medicine and natural sunning and natural grounding, natural breathing, that all comes from that space. I noticed that immediately. I was just saying to Kim earlier, either today or yesterday, the difference between being outside and doing that work and then coming inside. That shift is profound. It almost feels like I'm being kind of dumbed down a little bit when I come inside from that shift, because I am a sensitive empath. And so when I shift into that different ecosystem, as much as I am deeply grateful that I'm out of the hail in here, or whatever sort of, weather pattern may be, it's so much more integrative. Philip, hello, my friend.
What's up, Eddie?
Yeah. So that's, I hope that creates a little bit of a foundational kind of frame for natural living and natural healing and natural plant medicine and natural fill in the blank. It starts right where Aaron started, from spirit, and then it goes denser and denser and denser out through a polycultural living space. And I can expound on that maybe later if you'd like to get more detailed.
No, that's brilliant. I mean, we'll not know, like, we don't want to hear, absolutely want to hear more, but that's brilliant. And that's really the experience that, I mean, so many different practices you can speak about this, right? Like, let alone the direct experience of doing a plant medicine or anything like that, or going out in nature and meditating. But even like Kabbalah, like starting with the highest realms and kind of just pure consciousness, pure spirit, and then just getting denser and denser as you go. And then once you kind of align and correct those frequencies and vibrations in the highest levels and break them down, now you have to maintain that through diligent practice, maintaining your love and maintaining your spirituality here in the dense physical realms in order to maintain that connection, right? And that was one of the things that I can speak to of just in my personal experience at Rythmia, was really like that, like it was as if, like there was just deep like cleansing, spiritual cleansing, like release of all this old gunk, making space for so much light to come in. And once the light was there, its spirit was right there, all up in and around me, going, okay, this is how you maintain this, because this awareness will fade if you ignore it, if you don't practice it, if you don't meditate daily, if you don't exercise, if you don't keep your body of consciousness in shape. And what's also amazing is that it really, like, the changes are so tangible, being that, like, once we got back, I didn't have any desire to sit and like watch anime anymore or anything like that. Like I bought a guitar and started learning how to play guitar. and joined a gym and started exercising every day and doing hot yoga and stuff like that. And like, it's been like, like wake up in the morning, I got like an hour of meditation before even like leaving my room. And just like so many little things like that that are kind of compounding, that are supporting, you know, like really grounding in this change. And I think that like the assistance of the plant medicine, based on the experience that I had, can be, you know, like after that experience, I feel like this is something that like anybody who's called to do should do it. But also, it's not necessary if you're willing to put in the effort to sit down and meditate and do all of that work, you know. But it can be really difficult because often you don't even know the depth of what your subconscious is hiding. And that's really one of the things that kind of came up, was like, wow, I didn't even realize that I was sick, you know, in that sort of that spiritual sickness, you know, this like this gunk that was up in me that had to like kind of come out. And I was like, holy cow. So it was like an assist of accelerated growth and transformation. And it was absolutely, I'm so grateful for the opportunity to go through that.
I have something.
David, take it away.
Yeah, someone's muting me. Anyways, well, I'm about as far from all of that as you can get, you know, being on a military base. Can you hear me okay?
Yep.
Yeah, so I'm in a military base in a certain part of the country where our purpose is to end the lives of those who are trying to destroy the U.S. So, I mean, that's it's a little bit far from this. So, when I get back, I will see what I can do. But something you stated reminded me. Aaron said, I think in the last one, I wasn't there, but I watched part of the video, and he mentioned you mentioned something about how you were doing meditation, you'd get your higher self and your lower self, and you started looking at that, and so you went down there and said, oh my goodness, hellish nightmare. And you know what I'm talking about? Yeah, and I am interested in doing something like that. I don't know about how you'd start on doing something include to kind of the natural roots and stuff like that. But
I would venture at this point to suggest the use, honestly, of plants or earth around you while you're meditating. Now, Mahajriya, which I know you're familiar with, has the elemental mantras and the elemental meditations. The first one you're supposed to charge is earth, to really get connected with the ground. And so one of the things that they suggest and recommend too that you can do while you're meditating is take even a small dish of dirt. Like go outside, dig a small little hole, grab some dirt, bring it inside with you, take that with you, and then meditate on that earth. So you don't need necessarily to get out into the fullest expanses of the deepest forest around you. I'm sure wherever you are right now, you can find earth. You're on this planet. So
there's nothing outside but dirt.
Yeah, there's always lots of dirt.
Yeah.
And that right there is still nature. And so if whether you're going up the realms or down the realms in your own self-explanatory process, to be able to reground yourself with what is your intention, what are you trying to resolve. For me in that specific meditation, I was trying to find greater forgiveness, greater compassion, and greater empathy for all of the past experiences in my life that I was judging negatively. In order for me to do that, I had to understand them at a deeper level and actually go and walk through those places. But having like extra, like either a crystal or again, earth is really probably one of the easiest ones to do because it's right there and present. But to take that with you and meditate on that is a wonderful experience. And then too, I want to actually bring Karen into this. because you have a new little product there, a beverage. I'd love to hear more about it. I think it's really appropriate at this time if you want to take it away.
It is a little appropriate. So I've been in love with herbs for the past like 4 years, ever since this whole journey has started. And I work at a vegan store, which is really fun because I get to buy plant-based soap, plant-based shampoo, like plant-based cheese, like, so all these like alternatives that I wasn't very aware before. All it took was, you know, actually some searching around my area for these alternatives, and I found this great place, amazing place, and it has like about 3 huge walls of herbs that are imported from Brazil and India, and they're all non-GMO organic. So I was like, wow, this is like a playground. let's begin. So I did further research, and obviously the chakras to each organ or section of the body. So herbs kind of work similarly. And for example, roots act like bones. You know, the roots are like the bones of nature. And then we have like the leaves that carry like the veins, and then we have like the flowers, and each part of the plant can help your body. It kind of correlates to how your body works. Even mushrooms, if you see how consciousness can come even from like mushrooms are like very connected to like our consciousness, and then they're basically like our ancestors. And plants and everything, like we're so connected to them. So I did a bunch of research on some of my favorite herbs, and most herbs have like healing properties that help different parts of your body. So for example, rose can help your root chakra for like menstrual cramps, or it could also help like your heart because it's like it helps your blood circulation. So it's kind of like certain plants help different parts of the areas of the bodies. But this is where I came in. I'm like, okay, I'm gonna like create some recipes that I can like focus basically on the chakras. So I have an entire I also did kind of like sacred geometry, where I would only, for example, since the root chakra has 4 petals, I would base the tea or the tea recipe on 4 ingredients or 8 ingredients. So I've been making tea recipes according to each chakra to kind of focus and cleanse that chakra. So when you take, for example, my root chakra tea is basically very rosy, very earthy. It has roots. So if you were to take it, drink it, and meditate on your root chakra, it will become very vibrant, because you actually feel everything that is basically like there, and it will like clean it. And if your intentions are there, it's really, really interesting. So far I have the first 3 chakras. I'm working on the recipes for the rest. And my idea is basically, you know, be able to have your set of chakra tea and, you know, take it one every day of the week. Monday root, Tuesday sacral, Wednesday solar plexus, and like start to be more in balance with herbs and with like in touch with what is going on here. Because like when you do drink a tea, you actually do start vibrating in certain areas. Yesterday, I drank a tea with spirulina and thyme and moringa. And if you look at all these herbs, they are all so beautiful, and how much they're so helpful, right? And at the perfect doses. And my heart chakra was like vibrating, and it was like, I was just like, okay, a little less spirulina next time. Like, so things like that. And this is like one of my packages. This is a sacral, and it's been really fun. And yeah, I think I'll just keep adding my 2 cents in. You ask somebody who isn't in the spiritual or conscious community, and you ask them, where do you think this world is going, you know? And they have some answer around, AI is going to take over, or we're just going to destroy the planet and we have to leave it. Like, that's not really the point. The point is not to leave this planet. Our planet is our garden, our Eden that was given to us as a gift. Like, here, flourish, love it, take care of it, you know? And I don't think we're supposed to leave this planet. We are supposed to kind of coexist with animals, with the plants, and maybe have a balance between a little bit of technology where it can help us evolve more, but we can't forget about that nature that is so important. And we have to learn from the encryptions of nature within herbs, within plants, within fruits and vegetables, and we gotta like learn to coexist there so we can have a future that is possible in existence. Anybody who has that thought of, oh yeah, we're gonna leave this planet, like, you have to learn to open your brain for possibilities, that if there is a possibility of us finding a way to heal the planet and stay here, then you got like to shift and keep working towards that.
What you just spoke. Go for it, Aaron. Yeah, go for it.
I just wanted to say thank you. It's all you.
That Karen, what you just said there was absolutely perfect. When you speak about the encryption, first of all, if people want to leave this planet and go somewhere else, then by all means, that's fine, because, you know, as so many of us who have done, you know, great deals of research, there very well may be various different types of tribes from other types of off-planet scenarios that are here that have very different types of ways of living historically based on their genetics. And, you know, as humans, you know, we're deeply connected to this planet. And to be able to understand the diversity of living on a planet, again, you know, much to your point, you actually just sort of fleshed out a little bit of what polycultural living looks like. Maybe this is a good segue to maybe speak on that a little bit. And basically speaking, what polycultural living is using all the dynamics, kind of like what Jordan was saying, you know, starting way up at the top of, you know, in pure consciousness, and then moving throughout the denser spheres of the relationship that we have with life. But when it comes down to, like, let's just speak on the physical world a little bit, because so many of the challenges that we have in today's age is related to the relationship that we're creating with this earth. So when it comes down to polycultural living, this body, 9 out of every 10 cells is non-human. A lot of people don't realize that. We've got, you know, upwards of 100 trillion cells in this body, and up to 90 trillion of those are microbial or some other variable. So we are already just at that level operating on a polyphonic experience. It's multiple frequencies with multiple intentions, with multiple requirements, with all sorts of different variables that is required. So, you know, and then talk about the human faculty. The human faculty needs something very much like we were talking about, Karen, where we can actually tune our bodies specifically by using different types of foods, herbs, fruits, carry that on using different proper microbial scenarios. A lot of people don't realize the importance of what can happen with just one donation of microbes. There's actually a practice. It sounds a little gross right now, but you actually do fecal implants for people that are having medical issues. You take a fecal implant from a healthy person and you implant that into an unhealthy person, and you'll notice almost immediately they will shed tons of weight. They will go through a cleansing process, and that's just from introducing microbes dynamically within the body. So there's a lot of really cool things that are happening right now within a polycultural experience. Add to that an understanding of how to, let's just say, garden in the very least. And then if you have the wisdom, the capacity, and the power to do so, let's start talking about polyculture and permaculture, where we're actually establishing landscapes that are not agriculturally based, but permaculturally based, that major in trees. It majors in forests. But to sort of amplify your mission, Karen, if you were able to get a piece of property that you could start to assimilate some of those herbs locally, you'd see. So just as a sort of a tangent, if you've ever read the series called The Ringing Cedars of Russia, it talks about this Tiaga woman from Russia named Anastasia, who goes through a process of almost initiating a man into the process of understanding what it looks like to live a truly dynamic earth-based life, and what she calls man, like capital M man, and that has the division of both feminine and masculine aspects. And it's a really dynamic, very, very powerful storyboard that shows just how powerful we can be when we start to connect back to our roots, as organic beings that have superpowers beyond our wildest imaginations at 3 years old, already, never mind in adulthood, and our capacity to co-create reality based on that. To your point about using technology possibly to help us amplify, I think a really good book that talks about that a little bit is The Secret of Shambhala. I think it may be, I might be calling it wrong, but it's basically one of the Celestine prophecy books. Along the road, it talks about how Shambhala is created with these little boxes that help resonate with consciousness, that give us the ability to basically co-create life through our intent, and create different types of environments or clothing or food or different types of things just through consciousness into matter. So taking consciousness and creating matter through intent. So very interesting. And I can keep going from there. Basically, polycultural living is using all of the dynamic aspects of what is alive in this world. Minerals are alive, especially crystals. The crystal grids of the internal planet are so vast and so vibratory. They hold the consciousness of the planet in many ways, on levels that we're only beginning to understand. Microbial soils, the humus layer of soil is the single most diverse substance known to science. It's so alive, it's so diverse, it's so bountiful with life, it's something that we want to make sure that we're conscious of when we're amplifying our lives. Mushrooms. In soils themselves, it's called a mycorrhizal network or a mycorrhizal layer. That mycorrhizal layer is literally the most dense portion of any humus structure. And in 1 tablespoon, there's literally miles of microscopic mycorrhizal layers, and they connect to the roots of everything. It's actually considered in the world of ecology, the wood wide web is a fun sort of terminology that they've termed it as, because it connects everything together. It actually transports nutrients, it transports information, transports energy, transports all sorts of things back and forth between the root systems of literally everything. There's been studies showing how if you break those connections with potted plants, they don't communicate to the rest of the systems. That's the reason why, say, tilling a garden is not recommended. Rather, maybe pile on soil to an area that you would wish. Don't dig into the ground, pile the soil on top so that those mycorrhizal systems stay connected, and anything that you plant will immediately gain access to those networks, because I think they grow about 1 inch a year. They're very, very slow growing, but they have the capacity to really amplify systems. So that's just touching the surface on polycultural living. But what you're talking about with the herbology and the ability to activate systems, and just, oh my gosh, maybe a little less spirulina there, it's like, woo, it's exactly what it is. In fact, you need to PM me if you've got something that's just opening hearts like crazy. Get me in on that. We really need to play a role there. But all jokes aside, I mean, it's exactly. I love that you're doing that, because that's exactly what this type of community needs, is more connective things that we can do to get ourselves back in touch with our organic nature, back to earth, back to sun, back to air, and all the connectivity that's associated with that. So long-winded way of saying thank you so much for doing what you're doing there, Karen, and keep it up. And that's awesome work.
Well, I just wanted to say that that's amazing. Definitely, it's like we're all part of this like fabric of the universe, right? Like we are all part of it, and being in contact with plants and healing, and it definitely helps a lot to be in touch back to like this root, this main fabric we are all made of. And as a matter of fact, I'm drinking tea right now, celery tea. Pretty good. I'm going through some kind of detox days, but what I wanted to actually ask you guys is, how do you maintain this way of living, right? Like I have been working so much in being more in contact with this part of myself, with this nature part of the universe. And the fact is that when you go outside, you meet with society, and society is not ready to make the change yet. So it comes to a point that it's a little bit difficult, and sometimes it can hold you back a little bit, even though you try, you keep working on yourself, but there's always that like barrier in front of you that like pushes you a little bit back. Like, how do you guys manage to get through that? Because I'm having problems with that.
Totally. Yeah. Thank you for the
I'd like
question,
to say something about that.
David. Yeah. You got it.
Sorry, I know exactly what you mean. I mean, I live in a tent with like 30 other guys who have about the foulest mouths that you can think about, and so yeah, I know exactly what you mean. None of these guys are ready for any type of transformation of any kind. I live in this every day, so I think it's just kind of holding it with trying to steel yourself and make yourself strong, make yourself the example, make yourself try to be that reed in the wind. You bend to it, but do not break. I don't know. It is difficult. I can tell you, it is very difficult trying to just withstand against what the rest of society wants. And it's like society. A lot of the people they're like children in a candy store, kind of. They don't really know that that's not what they really want. They don't really know that all that stuff's bad for them. They don't really know that they shouldn't want that. But yeah, just kind of deal with it as you can. But yeah, it's difficult. That's my piece.
Thank you so much. I just wanted to add that, like, we have actually, Aaron's sister is actually going through a very similar thing right now of experiencing a change in what she wants to be doing with her life. And I wanted to kind of pose this as well as, like, if you can focus on first, look within yourself and look at all of the aspects of your life and say, like, which actions am I doing that aren't in resonance with who I am or what I want to be doing? It's like, even if society around you isn't right, like if you're doing the wrong job, if you're working an old paradigm job and you have a new dream that you want to follow and live that, then that's probably going to be one of the first big steps that you're going to want to take to solve that problem that you're having. Because if you're living your life having fun and enjoying yourself and doing the things that you genuinely are passionate about doing, then you really actually create the space energetically to support others in having that same experience. But if your thoughts and your consciousness, your patterns that you're emitting and out into the fields are like, I don't like my job and I don't want to do this, but I'm going to keep doing it anyways, then that's a pattern that's going to be reinforced in others too. But if you're like, I'm breaking away from that, I'm living my dreams, I'm going to do this thing that I'm passionate about, then not only do you align yourself with something that like uplifts you and like you feel up better when you're like like going about in your day to day, but also you open yourself up to meeting people who are in alignment and with resonance to your purpose and your passion. And so like, you know, you go out in the world and like, let's say if you're not really in that full alignment, you're like meeting people who are just like really heavy and whatnot. But like you start doing this thing over here and you start living actively in your dream and your passion, then you just start people who are already in that alignment, in that resonance, you just start meeting and you start connecting with. And like it just naturally happens. You know, it's not something that you have to force or worry about, but in doing so, it creates profound shifts. Like you have, you know, we really have no idea the level of impact that our choices and feelings and thoughts have on the world around us. But we are so intricately connected that like the moment that a thought passes through your mind, the moment that you feel a feeling, and the moment that you take an action does have an effect on the field. And people feel it and people can tell. And so like then your general demeanor and your like positive, like uplifted state will like, people will feel that and they'll like be gravitated to talk to you and like be like, how are you so light, you know, or what have you. So I'm not sure exactly what it is that your work is, or if it is in alignment or not in alignment or what have you. But that would be one of my pieces of advice regarding that.
Yeah, no, I'm actually happy doing what I do. I'm a server. I really enjoy doing it. I love talking to people. It's been nice. I have been changing a lot, working a lot on myself, so that has helped, like towards this, what you're saying, like get in touch with people that it's more connected with this way of life, this way of understanding life the way it is. Going back to our roots and understanding how this matter world is just like a 3D world, and we are more than that, and we are actually all connected in some like different dimension way. And so yeah, I'm very happy about that. I'm working a lot on myself, but sometimes I do find difficult barriers just because I'm in the process of changing myself too. So I guess it's a reflection of things that I might have to change as well in me. So probably that's why I see it outside.
I have something to add. First, I want to say, Priscilla, thank you so much for joining the community and and asking for and reaching out, you know, because I think it's like the very first step. So yay. It's like a mini celebration. Like you are doing the right thing. You are following your heart. One thing that helps me is basically, I've heard from a friend something that he said and it resonated with me. Anything that is not a loving, beautiful light, like it's not you. Everything that isn't this like innocent, like centered, aligned being isn't you. So any thoughts that come, any things that are penetrating your brain that you might not like, or anything that, any vibrations that are surrounding you, they're not you. Okay, so learning to separate yourself from the things that aren't you, that you know that you don't want to be a part of, you know that it's, you can use your time wisely and much better. One way to do that is like to work with your aura and like and make it a little bigger inside your space. Like, you know, you're so close to everyone else's and you can feel everything. But if you learn to open your space and grow your aura, then that way that you're carrying this centered being with you, like along the way. And one way to do that is by meditating and staying in that space. Another way is by joining in community with friends like us and just once a week to get you back into that space. But the ultimate goal is to keep carrying that around you, right? To keep having your space where you know that this is my true being, and anything outside of that is all of y'all, right? Because we are constantly interacting with so many people. Another way that I clean my aura is by listening to calming music. Like I am in the middle of the city, right? And here in San Francisco, and there's so many people around me. I just have to zone in, put my singing bowls inside my ears and zone out. It's literally the only way that I'm like within me, that the vibrations clear out my aura, and I'm just like completely calm, completely me, completely just like balanced, and then also, yeah, like drinking my tea and doing things that are mindful throughout the day. But growing that aura and understanding that if something comes in, you're like, whoa, that wasn't me, like, and then let it like just go, let it just flow through it, like flow through you, and just getting back to that space and carrying that space with you throughout the day is going to help a lot.
Thank you for sharing. Yeah, I have a sort of like similar and also very different practice that I love to do as well that I want to share here, because like it's sort of like the same thing that you're doing of being able to take a step back and say, like, is this really me, or is this my true self versus is this my ego talking, is often sort of one of the things that I really like to think about. And I have a belief and a view of sort of the world that all these experiences are happening for a divine reason. And so even if I do have something that comes through me that I feel is not in alignment with where I feel my soul is being called to do, or something that's, again, not vibrating on the same level that I want to be vibrating at, I often have to take a step back and not just dismiss it, but ask the question of like, why is this being brought to my consciousness? And moreover, how am I like that? Because a lot of times too, if ever I'm seeing the like thoughts come through my head of so and so is so in disalignment, I have to ask the question then, how am I not in alignment? And as soon as I like tap into my soul on that level, I immediately start to get just tremendous downloads of like, every step thou taketh, infinite now is the mountain of light. Like keep going and keep working, and not necessarily cast that judgment or that belief that that energy is bad in any way, but to try and understand it at a deeper level and learn how to improve myself as a result of being exposed to it. You know, it kind of goes back to that whole being so universally connected with life and with nature and everything. Like it's all still a part of, we'll say, us as the human conscious collective. Like Om Mani Padme Hum, let me be compassionate, but Madahani Miatma Om, I'm not the body, I'm the soul. And so as that soul, we kind of step into the perspective of, you know, how am I everything? How am I living those other experiences too? And from that perspective, it really hammers down to like, we are all still but children in the eyes of the creator, trying to figure out, you know, the ways that we need to really expand our love and expand our light quotient, and to be able to step into that harmonious resonance with all things. And a lot of times too, I feel like if I'm seeing, like, we'll say a difficult situation appear in front of me, I feel like that's the universe asking for my participation, to be like, come join. If you have a light to shine on the people in front of you that are going through a struggle, then to step up into that power and shine that light is often, I almost want to use the term like a scary thing. Like during my plant medicine healing experiences in Costa Rica, one of the things that I got on our second day down there was the idea of being like a warrior of joy, you know, to challenge the system, but with joy and love and compassion in my heart. And I was like, it's strange to be the warrior of joy would be the expression that my soul wanted to use for that. But then as I was meditating on that concept, I realized the amount of like almost discouragement that other people often send towards what being joyous is really all about, and the amount of strength and courage that it really takes to embody a person who's willing to forge that path of joy for others to follow as well. And then the next thoughts that came in were of honor and respect, you know, to be able to really honor another person's path and to respect them in their way. Was that whole do unto others as you would want them to do unto you, you know, and in turn show forgiveness, compassion, and the truth of our connectiveness to really just like bring that family closer together, you know. Like that's again, it's not an easy practice, but it's definitely a rewarding one. And two, I've seen Joshua pop up your mic a couple of times there. I was wondering if you have anything that you want to add on to the top of that. I'd be delighted to hear.
I'm just grateful to be here, and I love everything that everyone's had to share. I was going to speak up when you had first asked the question. Priscilla, nice to meet you. A lot of times I hear people ask a question really similar, and I know I've asked it myself, where I find it difficult, especially when I was in a traditional 9-to-5 job. Let's say I decided to become vegan, right? And I go into this culturescape of this workplace, and everyone has these expectations, and they have this list of titles and labels they have for themselves. And I've tried this new one called vegan on, and I come in and I happen to remark, you know, look at this new label I'm wearing. And other people have known other people who wore that label and they didn't like that person. And so they don't like me now because I'm wearing that label. And they'll react negatively. And how do you hold on to that when this person has this action, you know, that's negative towards it? Well, the same way you hold to any other label you've ever held on to. You decided you wanted to. You come in here and go, I made this decision for this reason. I don't know exactly what it is that you had a problem with, but I'm not here to cause more of that problem for you. I'm doing this for this reason because I believe it's for my best benefit. And you move on from there because you can't control their decisions or their choices or how they feel about what choices you've made. They're yours. Don't worry about what they think. You're awesome.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
You know, this is a little bit of a tangent, but it kind of came to my mind because Joshua, you had spoken about vegan. And this is one thing that I wanted to speak about actually, because I had this experience on the plant medicine where the first night, like you kind of the way that it works there is, and probably a recommendation for anybody who's going to do plant medicine in this capacity, is like you write down a list of questions that you have, and you know, the spirit always honors your attention. So you're kind of present with those questions during the ceremony. And I asked, one of my questions was like, what kind of food should I be eating? Because like I've struggled with food, like I've gone full vegan for long periods of time and then I'll feel strange. And I've had these meditations with like a year and a half ago or whatever, I would eat some chicken and then I would meditate and I would feel the spirit of this chicken inside of me, like finding liberation and all this stuff. And I'm like, I've just had so many different experiences with, and I have a lot of resistance to wanting to not be vegan or like resistance to eating meat or anything like that, right? But I during that first ceremony, I asked Spirit, just please give me some guidance here. And what I got was this like just visions of animals eating animals and being like, what's unnatural about that? And because, you know, like in your mind and then the vegan movement and everything, it's like it's inhumane to kill animals. And it's like even the idea of inhumane needs to be like, or what is humane needs to be readjusted a little bit, because like, yes, there's violence definitely in the taking down of but a lion taking down a gazelle is like exactly what nature is prescribing, you know, it's exactly right. So then I went, okay, but isn't the human body more designed to be an herbivore? And I just got like a close up, like look at your you have canines, like they're small, you know, like they are small. And like generally, yeah, we should be eating mostly plants. But even if we originally were herbivores, what Spirit kind of described was that over, you know, hundreds of thousands of years of evolution, we've been eating meat so long that our bodies and our DNA has adapted to be able to process and digest this, you know, like meat. And so after that experience, I was just kind of like blown away, and still kind of, there's still part of my ego that was like, okay, I'm like, I'm still really resistant, but I mean, okay, we'll see what happens. And I ended up having some fish the next day, and immediately felt the difference, you know, like as if, and just feeling like more like just that, like anything that was off food wise within me was just corrected from eating it. And it was interesting because kind of following up with this experience was like, I came back home and like pretty much just went back to my pattern of like straight vegan. And after like 5 or 6 days, I just started feeling strange again. And I was like, I went inside and checked like, what's going on? Why am I feeling strange? And it was like, don't you remember the whole thing with the meat? And I was like, oh, okay. And I went and I took up Patch to Row actually to the post office, and like walked to Safeway next door, and like went and got like this little chicken samosa, and I sat actually with it in like, there's like a little commons area in the Safeway, and I like sat there like meditating with this samosa, like saying thank you for like really long time. And eventually then I ate it there, and was like complete on it, threw out the garbage, and started walking out. And as I was walking out, I felt like directly like this like swirling within me just automatically just release and go away, and was like, wow, like like the direct experience of it has been so impactful that I've had to really, and it took some effort too, to like rewrite my ego in this regard, to be okay and comfortable with eating some meat. And like I'm trying to keep it to like a really small amount, like absolutely what's necessary. And I stand very firm on like how the mistreatment of animals is like a huge problem, and like that's still like, you know, there's nothing that's changed about that. But it's there's been just a big shift in my consciousness about like what's I guess what's okay, and like kind of like really releasing any shame that I feel towards any desire to have that, you know, and as a part of my diet. So anyway, yeah, that was just an experience I wanted to share.
Oh, excellent. That actually brings something to the table, like from my experience. I have been trying to lower my meat intake, and I'm trying to go to this vegan side, trying to, but same, sometimes things just come up, sometimes there's nothing else that you can eat, or people around, anyway, like any circumstance. And sorry, I lost track of what I was saying. Yeah, I don't know. I think it's just a basic of getting in touch with your heart, with yourself, with your true self, not the ego, your persona that is telling you how you should be, because you created this image of how you are supposed to be, right? And just actually being in touch with what your stomach, your heart, your whole body really wants at the moment. Like, and actually listen. There's a difference between needing something and wanting something. Like, you desire something, and that comes totally from your mind. Like, it comes from a different person. When you actually need something, your body's asking you for it. And I understand that meat and the meat industry and even other like processed food, like it's not good. It's not. It's made. It's not good. So the fact that you listen to what your heart actually wants, your body, it just can trace you back to the path that you should be on. You get to eat what your body actually needs. You feel better about it, even though it's things that sometimes at the moment are not the best for your body at the time. Or I'm not sure.
I love that. It actually routes right back around to. I had similar experiences with my own feelings on veganism, and I went full vegan for 2 different 6-month long stints, and it didn't sit right with me. There was something that felt like it was missing for me, and that may have just been where I was at the time. But it through time and through, like you said, this practice of listening to my body, I got more in tune with how to understand what it was saying to me. And so for me, I don't worry about, living by some code or standard that, is popular. There's no diet or anything like that. I eat when my body wants to eat. I eat what my body wants to eat, and I take the time to ask before I eat something if my body wants to eat it and see what it says. And I use like energy testing or how my body feels by listening to how it feels when I get near the food. But any method of being mindful or being conscious of what you're eating, I think, is what leads to this greater health, because we're not living on unconscious habit. When we live on unconscious habit, we can put more things in our body than we're aware of. But when we're consciously examining and choosing what we're doing, we're laying a better intention, and effectively we're putting stronger food into us, whatever it is we're eating at that point.
I love that we kind of. Oh,
No, go ahead.
Karen. No, please. I think you were unmuted there.
Not yet. I haven't heard from you, Eddie. It's okay. All right. I was just gonna say that for me, they have the saying that it says kind of like, you can control what you eat, your hunger. You can like control like more things around your life, like kind of like self-control. All control is self-control. I think to me, not eating meat is not really like about me. It's more about like saying a big F you to the man, because I feel like they just grab everything and grab like consciousness and be like, okay, what do they want? What can we feed to them like that they're gonna be satisfied, so they don't know what we're doing over here. So like they slaughter all these animals and they clone all these animals.
You're talking about the bread circus.
I don't know what the red circus is, but hold on. So I feel like even just saying like, you know what, I'm not gonna buy your. I mean, if it's organic, or if it's locally, it's okay. But I'm not gonna buy anything that all these big companies are doing, because you guys should not be in control, and you guys have been in control for too long, and it's my choice to not let you continue to take course of this planet, because it's not your choice. It's we should be making the choices as a big humanity, and it's not like about you either, So like I feel like how we spend our energy and how we make our choices also is just, to me personally, it's just I just like try to avoid the big circus, I guess.
Have you ever heard of the bread and circus? They call it a bread and circus. It's keep people fat, keep them happy, and they'll be glued to whatever you're putting out to keep them fat and happy, and they won't bother looking away to see what you're doing in the background. So that's kind of like the bread and circus. So.
You know, I love that we've transitioned into more of the food-based system, because, you know, it's likely one of the things that so many people, I mean, it's the first thing that people think about often when they wake up, you know, like, what am I going to put in my body? You know, and throughout the day, it's something that's consistently being, you know, part of our inner dialogue. You know, everybody brought up amazing points, and I kind of just noted down a few things that I wanted to sort of spin a little, because there's, in the world right now, and kind of to your point, Karen, is you're kind of, you know, given the old peaceful, joyful warrior, you know, finger to the man there, you know, because, you know, it's needed in a sense right now, because there's a massive paradigm shift that's occurring, especially within the community that we are, you know, participating in currently. And that paradigm shift is that, well, first of all, the entire industrial complex, whether it be the religious industrial complex, the agricultural industrial complex, the education industrial complex, medical industrial complex, these are all perversions of the natural world, because let's face it, this call today is all about natural living, natural healing, natural expression, etc. So understanding that these, like, current religion is a perversion of spirituality. Current agricultural industrial complex is a perversion of being able to eat close to the earth. The current educational system is a perversion of us being able to pass on wisdom from generation to generation. You know, these are all perverted by business. Business itself is perverted by banking, because banking is now an industrial complex that requires perpetual input based on fiat currency and an engine of constant debt. So when we live in these engines of constant, let's just say, assumption of things, like constant assimilation of all this stuff, this consumer-based mentality, we're not understanding that we need to step back a little bit and start to get back to consciousness, and understand, like, so I just kind of covered the industrial complex in a sense. We need to get back to the natural element that those are based on, and as I've kind of alluded to here. Now, the thing about eating is that the word "my body," it really isn't, it isn't accurate. It's our body, and I say our as in within this thing that I'm framing as I, is actually a cacophony of biology, all of which has its own needs, intentions, etc. And everybody has a different gut type. Depending on what you're putting into your gut, you are going to seed communities of various creatures that all have intent, and they will control your mind. They do. It's actually scientifically validated that what's going on in your gut is directly correlated with your endocrine system, with your nervous system, with the way that your thoughts and things frame during the day. So if your diet is full of potato chips and ice cream, well, it's very likely that you're going to be seeding your gut biome with the types of bacteria and microorganisms that are going to continue to call for that stuff to stay surviving, to stay alive. However, if you go through a detoxification process, and the word detox isn't necessarily honoring those creatures, because those creatures are there because you put them there. They're not evil. They're not anything like that. They're just what grows based on what you placed there. You plant the seeds, and what grows, you're going to blame the thing that grows. It's kind of silly. You know, you just need to be conscious of the garden that you're planting. Plant what you want. Because if you don't plant what you want, it's harder to weed the garden of the things that you don't want once they've been established than it is to not plant those seeds to begin with. So if you want to start to maintain a healthy gut biome that's in conjunction with natural living, then the idea is planting the seeds that you want to be there. So I went through 8 years of being a vegetarian, mostly vegan lifestyle. And for most of that, it was because I was trying to live a life that was, you know, spiritual and all this kind of stuff. And it was always something that in the back of my mind didn't feel right. In the back of my gut didn't feel right, but I did it anyway. And I noticed that there was some good things that came from that. First of all, I was able to reseed a biome that was a little bit more conducive to a natural lifestyle, you know, so that was a bonus to it. However, I wasn't giving the body an opportunity to assimilate some of the other things that it was calling for because of my ego. My ego was saying, no, you're spiritual. You're not supposed to eat meat. You're not supposed to eat things that have been killed. Well, excuse me, but every time we eat anything, it's been killed. Or, you know, plants, what plants not conscious? No, go to the Baxter effect. I think you guys did a video on that. You know, plants are highly conscious, highly emotional beings. And we factory farm those just as often as we factory farm chickens or anything else. And so what I'm trying to say is that, and that's not a good practice. That's one of the reasons why I wasn't appreciative of eating meat. But once I understood that, wait, every single, even breathing in a breath of air could be considered a violent act, considering all the microbes that are coming into my body and possibly being digested and eaten by other microbes in my body. So, you know, we do need to tread lightly on the fact that we are conscious creatures, and this system is based on a system of so much diversity, and it's a beautiful thing that we can participate the way that we do. And so, as we negotiate the water, I think we just got a newcomer here, Jocelyn. Welcome. There's a way to integrate all of this through basically looking at objective truth versus subjective truth. An objective truth is something that's true regardless of the way that I'm coloring it with my perspective. You know, this is a hand. That's objectively true. I could say this is a cool hand, but that's my subjective truth. So if I say, you know, this is meat and my body wants to digest certain protein, amino acid chains, whatever it is, there's certain, you know, minerals or things like that are in there that my body's for some reason wanting, then for me to say that's a bad thing, that's a subjective colorization of an objective truth. And we need to be careful of that stuff, especially in the spiritual community, because we are so sensitive, we are so empathic. And let's face it, the industrial complex is, it's as I said before, it's a perversion of what's going on here. So for us to be able to understand that, living, like, a great book, and I refer to this quite often, is a book called it's by Dr. Catherine Shanahan, and it's Deep Nutrition, and it talks about what our bodies actually want scientifically, and it talks about how, you know, the hunter-gatherer kind of approach is what genetically the body wants the most. You know, get rid of all these processed oils and things like that the world is so ready to shove down our throats. Get rid of the junk foods and all these types of things. I'm not going to get into the details of that work, but the point here is to get more in line with objective truth rather than the subjective truth. Rather than being so sensitive about information, we need to allow the information to flow through us without attaching it to our ego or sense of self. Sometimes the body, this we that is this body, just needs what it needs. We need to be careful, however, if we're craving ice cream, maybe what we're craving is something that ice cream has within it, and not the sugars. If you're craving sugar, then your body needs to go through, it's probably full of yeast. It's probably full of other various types of microbes that require that sugar to survive. So you need to be very careful with that. Let's just call it a repopulation or an exodus of the stuff we don't want, and a reintegration or a seeding of the microbes that do allow our bodies to accommodate for more of a natural living lifestyle. And that can then, for someone like Karen, like what you're introducing to the world right now, is something that once your body has gone through that cycle of reintegrating what is naturally what the bodies really want, then your body will be even more sensitive to be able to integrate those types of drinks and those types of teas. Your body will actually be able to respond to those things without having too many things in the way that are causing sort of battles in the gut kind of thing, which is why leaky gut is such a major problem in the world right now. You know, that intestinal permeability is the root cause of, you can almost name any disease known to science right now, and intestinal permeability is the root of the vast majority of that, and that all starts in the gut. So, you know, let's just stop objectifying creatures. They're not objects for our consumption. They're living beings, and that's where the prayer comes in. That's where the intent of saying, "I love you, thank you, live within me in your afterlife as me." Be part of my being, live through my eyes, live through my spirit, live through my capacity to be alive, see through different eyes. And it's in that, it's the thank you. It's the transition of consciousness from one form to another. So if we can just play in that field and not be so objectified by the industrial complex or concerned about that, eat as close to the earth as you can, possibly as locally as you can, maybe from conscious farmers if you can. But at the same time, don't starve. Just please get what's closest to what you need for your body so that you can live a good life. That's really my 2 cents on that. So I hope that resonates.
Oh, thank you, Eddie. That was fantastic. I love everything that you said. I mean, I had a thought before you started speaking that I just wanted to touch on. And I think you did a really great job of covering what I was going to say, because it was going to go into that Baxter effect and just iterate the importance of blessings one's food. And a lot of times too, we're very judgmental about the stuff that we're putting into our bodies of like, is this bad for me or is this good for me? And I'm really looking at that concept, and that right there sort of allows our consciousness to potentially taint that substance unless we are holding that gratitude and that appreciation and that blessing and that love. So what I always do is, often as I possibly can, even right down to the water I drink, is bless it. And to really say like that gratitude of thank you so much for sharing in this conscious experience with me, for helping nourish my life and my body. May my body now return that gift to the earth, and may my actions be such that shows genuine gratitude for these things. But even if I was going to eat something that I would perceive as not being super healthy to my body, I'm immediately going to go into sort of like changing that thought process with, no, that may I bless this thing, may the divine flow through me and change the molecular structure if necessary, so that whatever I'm ingesting will be used to the highest benefit of my body, and anything that's not in that alignment will pass through me, and I will be cleansed and cured through my own fasting processes and detoxifications or things of that nature as well. Like there's a balance there. But I feel like the importance of prayer and blessing our food on a spiritual level really has a noticeable impact. And again, like Dr. Emoto's studies of water is like, again, one of the most clear ways that we have to illustrate that our thoughts directly influence the food that we're eating, or the reality around us in general. And so to hold resonance really, truly for whatever you eat, bless it.
Hey, did Jordan just take off? Is he still there? He just apparently left the chat.
He was frozen on my view with like his hands up like this, so it was like goal. It was great. Yeah,
drop.
What are you into there, Jocelyn? What's going on?
Did you ask what are you into?
What's going on? Welcome to the chat. I'm sure you have something to share.
I just was happy to come on and witness and be a part of it. I'm really feeling the power of the full moon right now in Virgo. Feels like it's doing some sorting of the deep subconscious processes that were not so visible. Tons of Piscean energy going on too. So I can see there's a lot of emotional, what do you call that? You know, when an undertow kind of happens, it's like people are getting kind of swept up in the emotional undertow of their subconscious and having to reorganize and redefine things that normally maybe would go under the radar. So that's what I'm noticing at this time. And for myself, I've just been trying to get more and more clear by really slowing down and watching my own processes. So, yeah, that's where I'm at. And so that we can be clear on, or I can be clear on my internal processes so that I can share as clearly with others. So it's been a really, for me, this time has been really internal. Like a lot of my time is usually, and my energy is focused on socializing or connecting with others, but it's kind of had that internal aspect to it, where I've been doing a lot of witnessing, internal witnessing through meditation and personal practices and things like that.
Which is interesting because, you know, what you're talking, the tone at the beginning of this call is all about natural living, natural healing, and natural health, plant-based medicines, all that sort of stuff. So for you to introduce the idea of astrology, which is a very internalized, it's an internalization of the spheres of consciousness that we interact with, and as those larger conscious filters. You know, so and speaking of the inner work, you know, it's such a huge aspect of the way that we metabolize. Aha, Jordan, you're back. Hello, sir. Yes.
Well, go ahead.
Please, no. Perfect transition.
I just caught the tail end of it, so I didn't hear everything that you were saying, but I really loved the holistic view that you were bringing in. Personally, I've been studying a lot of the profundity of fasting, and especially dry fasting, and how our bodies are designed to really receive like plasma fields and run mainly off of that. And plasma is a version of electromagnetic energy that is just constantly available in our environment all the time. It's like it's the underlying energy that motivates all of the kinetic movement, or, you know, that we can visibly see. So I've been really going into Ray Maor's work lately. I've been watching a lot of his YouTube videos about why fasting is so effective. If you look at all of the different religions throughout our time, throughout history on Earth, you can see that fasting has been a staple that has been connected to purification and to not just purifying the body physically, but also creating space for that that being able to clear the mind and really see an expanded view. So fasting is really powerful for that. And our ancestors used to do it, you know, not even intentionally do it, but they just couldn't find food, so or water for a couple of days. So our body is naturally designed to do it. It's just that in the society that we live in, first of all, it's feared because we're told that, you know, we will only survive so long, especially without water. But it's also, there's not a lot of space in our because of everywhere you go, there's food on the, you know, at least in the Western world, there's food somewhere to be accessed. So it's really, we can see this macrocosm that's affecting the microcosm, in my opinion, which is like we have these people with these busy minds that have no space. Our metabolism on a cellular level is the same way. It's constantly having to sift through waste, to sift through all of this stuff. And when you fast, what happens is it has time to sift through that. And what Ray talks about is it's like when you're eating, what happens is it's almost like there's a guy that's sitting in, for example, like a post office, and he's waiting for these packages of nutrients. And this is what your cells do. And they're just waiting. And so when you keep eating like several meals a day, for example, they go, oh, this is great nutrients. Like we can really use this. But here comes another package. We'll just put this on the shelf. And so what happens is your body really never gets to kind of look back and organize what is nutrients and what are toxins and what the difference between the two are, and really clear the body. So I think that with conscious eating, it's important also to look at the other aspect. And I don't know how much you guys talked about the fasting aspect of it or not eating, but just as much as we're putting food into our body, we also need to look at that feminine, the emptying aspect of it, of how much time are we giving the body to actually take the nutrients and integrate it and really revitalize the body and get rid of what isn't needed. So there's these cyclical things that used to happen naturally in our environment, maybe with famine or with not being able to find food, or scarcity and scavenging that used to happen that just aren't happening anymore. And so I think that that is another contribution to why we see things like the rise in actually like things like osteoporosis as you get older, and arthritis and all of these different things, because when we used to fast, that's when the body would get rid of these inflammatory factors. And it's an overload. It's not only an overload of the processed foods, but also just the bulk nutrients, just the toxins in general. Like it's just, we are just overwhelming ourselves with technology and constant input from other sources. So this time for me in my life has been about taking a step back and emptying the mind, emptying the body, creating space, creating time for that deep listening. And what happens when you do this, or at least what's been happening for me, is that I go into this complete unknown. Like, I don't know why I'm here. I don't know what I'm doing. I feel like I'm purging all this stuff. But what is amazing about that is that if you never tune in to listen, then you're always just going to be saying something that you've heard from the outside rather than tapping into your unique stream of infinite intelligence that is here for you all the time. So it's like there's this beautiful balance that's offered to us of all the information you could ever imagine on your, just by the tips of your fingers, typing on a keyboard. But there's also what we have forgotten that I feel is so pertinent at this time, which is to really just shut off all of the outside input and like really go inside and listen, just wait. And not with expecting anything, but just waiting and, just allowing the emptiness to be, and just to be. So there's the philosophy, I think, behind what I've been doing specifically, but why I also think that if we're talking about the nutritional component, that fasting probably needs to be brought up as well.
That is awesome. Thank you for sharing.
I was going to say that we just wrote a script for, I'm hearing myself. Is that for me?
Oh, I think that's me. Hold on, I'll mute.
Oh, thank you. But the next two, one of the things that we're working on in Spirit Studios behind the scenes is just finishing up that nutrition series, because it's been going on for a long time, and we want to like put some hammers in that and whatever the terminology is. Anyways, we have sort of the raw and superfoods episode pretty much close to done, and we're just sort of in the final editing process of that. But we just wrote the script for the next one after that, which is fasting, and goes into all the goodness about fasting. And I could say, like, my personal experience, like I might have mentioned this before. I know I wrote a blog about it, but like I went 7 days dry last year, and after that was like really good on fasting for a long time. But also was like, it was a very strong, like, look, you're not going to die without 3 days of water, like, period, like, just so you know. And so I'm looking forward to the next time that I'm called to do that. But right now it seems to be my food and fasting and everything is really about like that moderation and balance. And like, eating the right amount, and then, you know, if it's like 9 o'clock in the evening and I've eaten earlier at like 4, and being like, you know what, I could eat, but I don't have to. And actually I'll feel better if I don't. And then just kind of going, you know, instead of having the late night munchies and then you're up late and then you're up or you're up late in the morning too. And like, it just kind of throws the whole cycle off. So the balance in that regard is, yeah, that's kind of where I'm at. But I just thank you again also, Jocelyn, for everything you spoke about with fasting, because it's really good to have that, someone put a voice to that. It's like, it's really good, really beneficial.
Cool. Yeah, and it doesn't have to look like, you know, a 3-day dry fast or a 7-day. Like the majority of the time what I'm doing is a 12-hour dry fast. So it's literally like you go to bed at 12 and then you don't eat again until noon. So like most kids, for example, when you're growing up, like you don't feel like eating breakfast. So they're doing it anyway. So, but you just don't drink any water or any liquid or eat any food until or for 12, and sometimes they'll push it to 14 hours. But, you know, that really gives the body time to go down to a cellular level and get rid of all that cellular debris that is just hanging out. So that can be an easy way that literally like anyone could start doing that.
Absolutely. I want to, just as a piece of reference, I noticed some of the comments on this chat. There's some confusion about whether it's healthy or not and whatnot. And I wanted to invite people to go check out spiritsideCentral.com. If you go kind of, or just do a search for fasting, or if you go to like some of the first couple of articles that we posted, we actually have a science of dry fasting, the spirituality of fasting, and then another third one about dry fasting or something like that. That is up there and available to read. And there's a lot of good like science and sort of looking at it from the spirituality and from the scientific perspective.
I'd like to put in something on that. I've read an article, just a little talk fasting. If you fast for 3 days, your immune system will go into overdrive. And I don't remember what it was, but it was some sort of study they were doing. They found things that would put your immune into overdrive. One of them was taking cold showers. Another one was fasting for 3 days. And I don't know what study this was. I don't remember, but I don't know if you've come across that while doing that, looking into that. But yeah, that was something that I remember about fasting. And it also, yeah, it gives your body time to clear out toxins and stuff. Yeah.
You can definitely find that study really easily with a Google search. There have been quite a few different versions of it, just testing exactly what the capacities of that are. But I wanted to route back to something Jocelyn was talking about there, about the 12, 14 hours. That reminds me of my last year when we were talking about fasting. And I want to say it wasn't too far off from around this time when we were talking about it last spring. My attitudes on food and things have definitely opened up and shifted. And one of the things that I subconsciously found myself doing a practice very similar to what you were doing. And my brother then mentioned this technique called intermittent fasting. And it's based on that very concept, where you'll go between 14 and 18 hours a day without eating. Because you've got your sleep, and so you're only eating during this like 6-hour window. And so for me, I set up when I was intentionally practicing this, where from sunset, which was around 6 o'clock, to midnight, that was my 6 hours I could eat, because I didn't go to bed till about 3 or 4 in the morning. And that gave me plenty of time to really sink into that practice. And I can definitely say that it gave me much greater energy levels And all it took was sticking with it for a few days before I really started to notice that kicking in. So I'd say if you're really worried about the whether this is healthy or not, try it like Jocelyn said. Try 12 hours at a time. Try those and do your research. And go talk to your doctor even. Talk to some experts. Dig around. And if you've got that kind of a fear, that's an emotional charge, which means there's something there for you to learn.
That fear could also be your microbes saying, no, don't fast us. We want to stay alive. But when it comes down to, so just to add to the points of everybody here, you know, what wasn't brought up is the body's circadian rhythm. And, you know, when you go through a cycle, especially when it comes down to the intermittent fasting, if you stop eating at 6 p.m. and you don't eat till noon the following day, you're actually following almost to the T your circadian rhythm, especially from the elimination cycle, which happens, I think, somewhere between 6 a.m. and noon, or 6 a.m. and 2 p.m. And then from 2 p.m. till 8 p.m., you're going through another process, or 10 p.m., you're going through another process, which is the assimilation cycle. And then you're going through an accommodation cycle. I can't remember the terminology, but it's something akin to that. And so the reason why you feel so great is that, you know, high noon, or, you know, from 2 till 6, that's where your body is actually going through the most, the digestive phase. It's that fire phase, where you're actually going to start to accommodate for a lot more of that food that you're eating. And if your body is already, as Jocelyn was talking about, you know, like the stuff off the back shelf has been looked at and sorted and assimilated, what's not needed is sent out and what is needed is kept, the body's able to assimilate a lot more of what you're putting into your body. So if, you know, someone was to take one of your teas, Karen, and take it at that time, that they're going to experience an exponential increase in their energy capacity, because you're actually working with them on a much subtler level. If they integrate, you know, the healthier foodstuffs that we do have access to, if we just allow ourselves to look a little bit deeper, we can use those foods as true fuel for the body, mind, spirit, and you know, cosmic body, whatever it is that we're going to do. You'll see the elevation in your meditative practice. You'll see the elevation in your fitness practice. You'll see the elevation in the clarity of your mind, the clarity of your vision. So, you know, one of my buddies is a huge advocate of intermittent fasting. I watched him go from, you know, being overweight and generally unhealthy to really, really fit in a very small period of time. And that's just through intermittent fasting. He's kind of food snobby, which, and what I mean by that is he doesn't allow junk food or anything like that into his body, but he will eat, like he'll sit down and eat a salad the size of your head and like half a chicken, you know, in that small period. And it works for him. It's just what works for him. And he's choosing, you know, healthful practices and insofar as what he understands to be healthful. And it's an interesting way to at least begin the process of understanding your body a little bit more, becoming a lot more sensitive to what your body wants and needs, and giving the body an opportunity to detoxify, you know, from a relatively highly toxic world that we live in right now. So it's, I'm glad that we brought up the topic of fasting, especially when it comes down to natural living and natural, you know, healing and that sort of thing, because it's a very important, critical role if you're going to do just that, go through the process of something like a detox, but it's not exactly that. It's so much more than that. It's being able to allow your body to do what it does well without any cacophony of like the chorus of too many things coming at you all at once, sort of, you know, repeating what you were sort of talking about there, Jocelyn. So yeah, great. That's awesome. I just wanted to add that whole idea of the circadian rhythm and why it actually is functional to go through that process.
I actually wanted to ask something. I forgot your name. Mindful Maya. So I wanted to ask, are you sending any of those teas out at all? I was wondering if I can order them, if you'll ship them to like an APO or something like that. Because I'm over here somewhere else.
Somewhere else. That's so funny. Yeah, just send me your address. I have sold 4 teas, and then I have about 3 other orders coming in, but my first order was so exciting to reach this. Like, it was so good. I'm so grateful. I just shipped from yesterday, one to Florida, one to Las Vegas. I only have like set right now the root, the sacral, and the solar plexus. So the heart, the throat, the third eye, and the crown are still to come. I want to bring it out there once I have, you know, the entire package, because I don't want people to be like, oh, I'm so like open in these channels, but what about these? You know, so like, I don't want it to be completely balanced, but I am already on Etsy. So the 3 T's are already there. So if you want, just find me, and I'm Mindful Maya, just like my name right here. And if you want one specifically, there's more information on it. And then gradually I'll be adding more T's, and then eventually I'll be selling the set, so you can be already balanced within all of them.
That's
Awesome.
super
Thank you. And what was it again?
Mindful
Sorry,
Maya.
what was it again? Yeah.
On Etsy, so it's www.etsy.com/shop/mindful, and then MAIA.
All right. I'll see if I can find that. All right. Thank you.
Yeah, no problem. Thank you.
Yeah, that's super cool. Actually, so we're going to bring this call to a close here in a second, but I just wanted to ask you, Karen, because you said that you were using the amount of petals on each chakra for the amount of ingredients in the tea. And I was wondering, like, how many ingredients were you going to put in the crown tea?
So funny. So I've been doing variables. So I want to do different recipes for each chakra, because we have so many herbs that I could be like, okay, well, maybe if this root recipe didn't work for you, maybe you like this one. It's a little bit more earthy, less rosy. So I want to try different variables, right? So for the root, we have 4s. I could play with 2s and 8s. For the crown, I would have to like just divide it. So it wouldn't be, I would maybe like have a 1 in there, maybe 10 ingredients. It would just be like more subtle parts of each tea, each herb. But yeah.
I could see 10. I could see 10 working because of the 1 and the 0, and you cover everything with those ones. But normally the crown is just like, isn't it like the infinite petals? So it's like every ingredient ever.
Or even 1, just tying that sacred geometry. Even 1 strong like mugwort tea. Good luck with that.
Totally.
Lotus petal tea.
All of that'll be good. Yeah, actually.
Mushroom tea.
I was just gonna ask. Sorry. I was gonna ask Aaron, because we were talking about drawing a card. Did you grab a deck?
Sorry, no, I'm about to go grab one. I just had to listen to what was going on with that tea conversation because that was too good. I'll be right back in like 10 seconds with the deck.
Excellent. Okay, cool. So yeah, in bringing this call to a close, we're gonna draw a card because everybody on the chat was really requesting it. And we'll do a little closing meditation and then bid you all wonderful people adieu. So for those, mostly everyone here is probably get those cards in the chat. There's for those who are unfamiliar with it, we've made a Patch Tarot deck. It's paintings of pictures behind me, the posters. I think he's got one. So we will defer to you, Mr. Aaron, now and give us a card. Oh, Karen could have done one. She's got her deck right there.
All right. Ooh, interesting. We got the 5 of Cups. Looks like this. This is sort of like looking at the loss and looking
fasting.
Yeah.
There's no water.
Going without and seeing what happens through that cycle as we let go of these things like regret and shame and let ourselves be reborn again anew through the process of learning through all of these things, you know, like there's something that we got to give up in order to receive again. And if we're holding too tightly and too stagnately on any one particular reality, you know, and not letting that flow, just constantly receiving without giving back, you know, that energy gets blocked. And so to be able to let that flow move through us, to be grateful, to bless all of experience as it comes through us, and release when it's time to do so as well, it really helps create that natural resonance. Mars and Scorpio.
Love it. Thank you so much. Okay, well, we'll now begin our closing meditation. So everybody take a deep breath and close your eyes. Now, as you breathe, let all of the other thoughts and all of the other things happening just sort of let them float out of your awareness, out of your focus as you hone in on your breath. The inhale, the space between, the exhale, the space between. And as you pay attention to that rhythm, noting that that is all there is, realize that this is your life force. This is the motion of your consciousness. And the smoothness and the arcs between the inhale and the exhale really determine the state of being that you're bringing into the physical reality. It's like an infinity loop, a lemniscate, circling right around your heart. In and out. Up and down. And once you reach this point of stillness in the center of your being, you'll see that any thought, any feeling that does move through you affects everything in your body and even sends ripples into the fields around you. And so we breathe. We focus, but in that focus we let go. Because all of the other things, your body, your clothes, your thoughts, your feelings, they are all subject to change. But the breath is a constant. And you have the decision and the ability to choose how you want that breath to move. Slow and steady, fast and rapid. And that space between the breath, the space between the inhale and the exhale, is that point of stillness. We can always bring ourselves back there just by remembering that it's there, no matter what's happening. The breath is always there. And you can experiment by breathing out everything and then just sitting there in that still place and holding it, feeling what that feels like without any motion. And similarly, when you breathe in and you hang, what is this place? It's so still. And then returning to the rhythm of your breath, free of distracting thoughts. And when you're ready, maintain this as you open your eyes and return back to the present physical moment. And just remember that no matter what's happening, all of these physical day-to-day actions that you're always doing, always have that breath. You can always center yourself. All of this, everything can change. But spirit, right here, always is there and always the same. Like the eye of a hurricane, present and ready for you the moment you ask. Namaste.
I missed you guys so much. Thank you.
We're back. Thank you all so much for joining us today. It's really good to be back. Really good to be to share with all of you once again. So looking forward to seeing you all on the new moon in about 14 days.
Thank you, Jordan. So much love.
Thank you, Joshua.
Many blessings, everybody. Thank you.
Peace, love, and light.
Thank you, everyone.